Cool, I want to talk to you about the 3 phases of successful property investing. I'm going to explain to you why following this simple process is the way to almost guarantee your property success, and also it's one of the major reasons that people fail. Let me explain. Now, a lot of people want the outcome. They say things like financial freedom, or they say things like, you know, building a legacy. But what does that mean, and how do you get there? Particularly, how do you start and end up in the right place? Well, it's all about following a system, a process, a sequence. Now, this is something we help our clients with to understand and to make sure they're doing things in the right way. Because if you just jump ahead and buy the wrong type of property at the wrong point in your journey that you're not emotionally ready for, that you are not financially ready for, you can completely stall, stunt, or break your property journey. So what are the 3 phases? Well, first, we have foundational. Now, what is a foundational property? Foundational property is typically going to be $200,000 to $400,000 price point, minimum 5.5% yield. Draw a nice little house there, just so you know we're talking about houses. Now, the reason we want to buy a foundation property first is like I said, like it sounds like, you want to put the right groundwork in when you're building your pillars of wealth in your life. So foundational properties are typically going to be solid growth. We're going to be looking for at least 7% yield in the first year. We're going to be looking for around 20% growth in the first 3 years. Minimum 5.5% yield, maximum $15,000 cosmetic reno. This is where you get started. Now, the function and the purpose of this stage is to give you a solid grounding base that is going to be appreciating in value. It's going to service all of its own debt and expenses. It's going to help you get ahead. It's going to provide you with the safety that when you start to move to the other stages of your journey, you always have this driving from the bottom up to give you that strength that you need to be able to take further steps. Now, once you have developed, now you might buy, depending on where you start, if you're buying a $200,000 property versus a $400,000 property, you're going to have different lengths in this stage. And it's not about how long you stay there, it's about how well you stay there. So the aim of the game here is you want to build a broad enough base that is going to power you to go to the next level. So that might take 3 properties, it might take 2, or it might take 4, okay? The next level is what we call acceleration. I'm just going to write Excel. Now, the acceleration phase is where we start to buy assets which have larger intrinsic value. So typically, we're talking about stuff like subdivisions. It might be doing a granny flat addition. Subdivisions are a great one because they allow you to chunk up cash or equity. You can sell off the land, or you can leverage the equity if you have enough cash flow to be able to transfer into the LVRs of the other properties, and also to fuel. It's like adding rocket fuel to your property journey. Now, the aim of the game here is build enough equity in this to be able to safely leverage into buying these so that you can then bolster the rest of your portfolio as you want to grow. Now you can start paying things down. You can then even potentially start to build on those later on. But the aim of the game here is that these take longer to produce, they have a higher yield, but they also have higher outlay. So you need to make sure you're both emotionally prepared and financially prepared to take this step. Now, you could just stay here. You don't have to go any further. You could have a solid portfolio of foundation assets, then you could have a solid portfolio of acceleration assets and do 1 or 2 of these a year and be totally fine. And that's cool. The next phase though, for those that are interested in pushing things to the next level, for those who want to seek more, is what we call legacy. Now, the legacy phase is very different. The legacy phase is typically when we're going to be looking at stuff like unit blocks or small developments. Now, the reason we want to wait until we have built up enough equity and enough cash flow in these 2 stages is you need to be able to safely leverage into these assets without crippling your portfolio, without putting yourself at risk, you and your family at risk, because these are typically going to have different lending criteria, different outcomes, and different timelines. So whilst this can be much higher cash flow, much higher returns, there's also sometimes more risk and definitely more outlay. So you need to make sure you're following the right process. So foundation, acceleration, and then only when you build up enough equity and enough of a safety net should you jump into legacy assets? I hope that helps you to understand the process to go through. So you don't just start thinking, well, how do I do that? Or why can't I do that first? Or do I even need to do that? Or if you just break it down and follow the simple steps, you're going to get to where you want to go faster and more safely. I hope that helps.